welcome to Peace Conversation. I'm TK Nakagaki, President of the Heiwa, Peace and Reconciliation Foundation of New York. And we have guests come every time. And so this is a kind of conversational or dialogue type of program on the occasion of the 75th anniversary of Hiroshima and Nagasaki atomic bombing. And today we have Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi, who is a great leader of the Buddhist community that we have in New York and the world as well. So I'm very grateful that I was able to, the Bhikkhu Bodhi can join us today. So I thank you so much for your time, and I know you're very busy always, but yeah, always bring us the great insight of whatever the activity that we have, like also the global relief and any of the Buddhist activity. We always appreciate your great insight and the wisdom and compassion that you share with people. And so I don't know, maybe we can start with a little introduction, but then maybe normally introducing is not interesting. So, but if you can, including your some of the experience you have. This is a very important experience you have, or life, key parts of life, and so that's why you are here now, like this. If it's okay.
Okay. Well, obviously, I am a Caucasian American. I was not born into a Buddhist family,
Right.
but I was born into a secular Jewish family in New York City. When I was in my early 20s, I became interested in Buddhism, originally as part of like a spiritual search.
Oh, okay.
And so I encountered first some books on Buddhism. Then later, when I was going to graduate school in California, then I met some Buddhist monks. The first ones were from Vietnam.
Oh, okay.
And later, some monks from Sri Lanka. And one of them became a connection for me to Sri Lanka. And so when I finished my graduate studies, then I went to Sri Lanka to ordain as a Theravada Buddhist monk. And altogether, I lived in Sri Lanka for more than 20 years.
Oh, 20 years. I didn't know that long.
Actually, it was longer than that. It was altogether in Asia, 24 years.
Oh, I see.
Probably 22 of those 24 years in Sri Lanka, almost a year in India, and almost a year in Singapore.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's quite interesting in a way. Do you speak any particular language at that time, or I was just curious about language-wise. When you go to the
well, you see,
temples.
Sri Lanka used to be a British colony of Ceylon.
Oh,
so
okay.
Many of the middle class and upper middle class Sri Lankans spoke English very fluently.
Okay. So you don't have much of the problem for the language from that sense.
Yeah, I mean, I learned just simple conversational Sinhalese, but for higher level conversations and for discourses, I had to use English.
I see.
But most educated Sri Lankans know English well.
Oh, I see.
And my ordination teacher, a Sri Lankan monk, old Balangota Nanda Maitreya, spoke perfect English.
Okay.
Very, very eloquent British accent.
British accent is difficult to understand, or it's not?
Oh, it's very clear. His English
clear.
very clear.
I see.
It's almost like an Oxford English.
That's interesting.
English accent.
Wow. That's something
not
different.
Not Cockney British accent.
Interesting. So how was the experience in Sri Lanka then? Like 20 years is something very. What does that really?
Well, from the standpoint of, let's say, from the standpoint of monastic life, I found Sri Lanka to be very congenial because it allowed me a lot of time for my own study and practice. And then I became involved with the Buddhist Publication Society, which is the first major English language publishing firm established in Kandy, in this town of Kandy.
Oh, Kandy, yes. Yeah.
And they would publish these little booklets on Buddhism in 2 series called The Wheel. The Wheel is larger booklets and smaller booklets called Bodhi Leaves. And then these were being sent out all around the world.
It's really like a text. If you know that to learn Buddhism, you need to have that.
They started in 1958. Then I became the editor for the Buddhist Publication Society, and
I see. Yeah.
Let's see, 1984, and I became the president of the society in 1988.
I see. Yeah.
But in relation to like your objectives of your organization, Heva of Peace, during the last part of my stay in Sri Lanka, from 1983 until I left Sri Lanka in 2002.
I see.
Sri Lanka was torn by very bitter, very violent.
Oh, yeah, at that time, yeah.
Or was rooted in different ethnicities.
Oh, okay. So how was Buddhists react to at that time? I'm curious of how
I have to say that for most of the Buddhists had a very strong sense of ethnic identity, identifying themselves as Sinhalese Buddhists. And viewing themselves as the proper sort of masters of the island of Sri Lanka.
Oh, okay.
And so, though Buddhism in principle is tolerant and accepting, but they regarded themselves as the proper masters of the country and regarded the Tamil Hindus and Christians and Muslims as living on the island as their guests.
Oh, I see. So,
and they were not so, let's say, accepting of the idea that Sri Lanka is a inherently, by its constitution, a multi-ethnic, multi-religious country.
Oh, I see. So some gap between like a teaching parts and the practice part, I guess.
And that the attempt in the 1950s, this goes back in the 1950s, this is like certain politicians, in order to win elections, play the ethno-religious linguistic card in order to get the votes that they need to get elected into office. Then, because they play that card, once they're elected, then they're under an obligation to fulfill their promises. And that involved making the Sinhalese language the exclusive language of the nation, which the Tamil people felt put them at a grave disadvantage.
Oh, I see. So,
and that led to the buildup of suspicion, distrust, hostility over the years until in 1983 it reached a breaking point where it erupted into
I remember one time
we going ethnic war.
Right, because we were thinking I came to, I guess I came in United States in 1985. So, and later then the people tour on the different sites of the Buddhism and so forth. But,
so you never went to Sri Lanka?
Oh, actually, only recently. I mean, when everything is settled, it seems like now it's okay. It's like maybe 5-6 years ago.
I see.
It's a very recent. And so I went to the Kandy, as you mentioned it, and other parts of the, of course, Colombo's and different part of the Buddhist site as well. So it was very wonderful. I mean, like Sigiriya was a mountain on the top.
Oh yeah, I know
so
Sigiriya.
That was very nice. So the very pretty country in my the view when I went there at that time. But I guess you just like 10-20 years ago, it's going to be really different. So that's a difficult time, I guess, for you to be there, I guess.
Well, Kandy itself was not. Well, I was living in Kandy, which was not so directly affected because the fighting itself was taking place in the north and in the east.
Okay.
It was not, the fighting was not taking place in Kandy. So every place was in danger of, to some extent, of terrorist bombings. And even while I was living in Kandy, the Tamil Tigers, the militant Tamil group, launched a early morning bomb attack on the sacred Temple of the Tooth.
Oh, I see.
The temple that holds the Buddha's tooth relic.
So that's kind of great experience, I guess, the kind of way that's, yeah. So, because, the way that we're in a conversation is also, what is the essence, maybe from the Buddhist point, what would be the, the important practice to bring the peace. That's like, I wanted to ask you some questions of those. If you feel like any particular teaching you feel is very comparing or important to always keep in your mind to create the peace work, or like those. So I just wanted to hear what do you think is possibly an essential teaching of the Buddha for peace building.
Well, of course, the teaching of the Buddha always emphasizes non-violent approaches to non-violence in physical action, non-violence in speech. No license is given to angry speech and speech that hurts the feelings of others. And no one is supposed to train the mind to eliminate hatred, ill will, resentment, anger, and other unwholesome emotions. So these are some principles of Buddhism that are conducive to peace. But there's always the problem that when there are two conflicting parties have opposed interests, and the problem is how to settle the conflict between them in a way that will satisfy them
both sides.
Without resorting to violence to achieve one's aims. And so any attempt to arrive at a peaceful settlement to a conflict will almost inevitably involve compromise from both sides.
Right, yeah, I see.
Both sides, they won't be able to get everything that they want.
Sure.
And so I think it becomes essential to recognize that living together in peace and harmony is in the long run a much greater benefit than any other material benefit that can be achieved by resort to violence, to destruction.
Right, yeah.
And then there's a verse, it comes in the Dhammapada, a famous verse. Well, actually there are several verses. One verse says, better than conquering 1,000 men 1,000 times in battle is the conquest of one person, namely the conquest of oneself. And then there's another verse that says, victory breeds hatred. The defeated party dwells in resentment. So better to give up both victory and defeat. And in that way, one can live in peace. But that, you say, a verse like that is good in relation to a monastic or an individual. But when it comes to nations, they have to tread a very, very delicate line between fulfilling their own needs, the needs of their people, and maintaining a peaceful relationship with other countries, other groups that have opposite interests, incompatible interests.
So that's the next different level of the kind of difficulty that Buddhism used to have too, probably. Because for me, I mean, in the end, one of the reasons I started Heiwa Foundation itself is things that what I learned from Buddhism is always going to the peace, and then somehow my life part of the experience with the Hiroshima and Nagasaki, everything goes to the kind of peace building in the mind and body, and then the speech too. So I feel like maybe that's something that I wanted to focus in based upon the Buddhist principle, but at the same time, the not just the one part of the so-called Buddhism as a like a dogmatic way of Buddhism, but rather, including all the other religions. Also, some aspects of the peace is very, I think it's important. So that's why I started this. But one of the main part is, of course, 75th anniversary of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki was, I know it's coming. So I was actually prepared many different ways. But of course, the coronavirus and everything. So it's just things are not the way that I planned. But still, I feel very important for the kind of a 75th as one of the kind of the time that at least people think like the hibakusha, the survivors, are getting very very less, and then because so maybe the people who can really share the experience may not be live next 100 years memorial. I mean time. So like those concerns. But so I wanted to ask you maybe more for your thoughts on the 75th anniversary. Is there anything that we should be doing, or you're planning to do something, or what would be something?
Well, I don't have any plans to do anything myself.
Yeah. Oops.
But as far as the implications of this for policy, I think, so far as I understand, recently the United States withdrew from some agreement with Russia over limitations on the testing of nuclear weapons. Is that the case?
Yeah, and also he said he wanted to make a more test case happen again. I mean, wanted to start the testing
nuclear weapons again.
Yeah. So.
And this is extremely foolish. I think it's most essential the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty.
Right.
I think the U.S. has withdrawn from that, has it?
Yeah, many times, like all those countries, like Russia, U.S., and others tend to be, not to support or
But I think it's important for the international community to press on every country to become a signatory to that agreement.
Yeah. So that's the UN itself has a bureaucracy. I mean, kind of I don't know, some kind of politics always going on. So, that's.
But yet the major nuclear powers are not signing on to that agreement.
Yeah, because
then the agreement, if it's just signed on to by the countries that don't have nuclear weapons, then it's not so effective.
Right.
It really has to be binding on the countries that have the nuclear weapons. That they have to make a strong commitment never to use nuclear weapons. In fact, it would be for the benefit of the entire international community if every country, at least the countries that have nuclear weapons, if they would start to reduce their nuclear stockpile.
Yeah. Because it's I mean, from the environment aspects also, always plutonium and so forth is bad for the I guess the environment, and plus if any of the weapons are used even once, that may change a lot of dynamics of the earth itself. So there's some so. Yeah, in a way, it's the meaning, like as I mentioned, but the hibakusha is less, and then the words, strong words, going to be less, and then, maybe there's some possibility to maybe another usage of the nuclear weapons. Then that's a little fear that I think I don't know, maybe bigger fear, and each person is a part of the community of the earth. So maybe if we have any suggestion or anything that you feel this is very important to be able to do for people.
From a Buddhist perspective, is that we have certain virtues or certain qualities that we would say inherently have the capacity to promote peace and harmony.
Right.
And what I especially have in mind, we call these sometimes they call them the Brahmaviharas, the divine abodes, or the Appamanya, the immeasurable states. That is universal loving kindness, compassion, altruistic joy, and impartiality or equanimity. And these qualities are not, they don't have a stamp on them. This belongs to Buddhism, this is the property of Buddhism, but rather those are universal human qualities. And what we could do as Buddhists to contribute in our way to world peace is to promote the development of those qualities and to teach, because we have systems of practice, of meditative practice for cultivating those qualities. So I think even people, sincere Christians, Muslims, Jews, Hindus, who are devoted to a higher ethical conduct would easily appreciate those kinds of qualities. And we could teach how to cultivate them, to develop them, without having to impose any Buddhist philosophical doctrine or religious doctrine. And so if we could establish, even if the United Nations culture based on the four immeasurables,
that would be very interesting.
It would, in its own way, contribute to promoting world peace.
Okay, sounds very,
We have special days each year with the whole world community, not just Buddhists, but everybody. Through the internet, we could all get together at the same time, or maybe have to be staged at different times in order to accommodate people in different time zones. But do just a global 20 minutes meditation of loving kindness and compassion. And I think it would create, because I think people's ways of acting and even national policies are in some way strongly influenced by the emotions, the attitudes, the ways of thinking of the people that constitute those countries.
Yeah, sure. So that helps.
And so if we have a country where people are always thinking with suspicion, distrust, animosity towards people of other countries, then this will lead to hostility, and it can break out in violence.
That's true.
Like we see now, some of the leaders of our country are always constantly referring to the coronavirus,
as
calling it what they call it, the
Chinese
Kung flu.
Oh, okay.
Or the China virus.
Yeah, China virus, yes.
Or the Wuhan virus. And so you can see that is inciting, here in the U.S., it's inciting antagonism and sometimes even physical violence against people of Asian origins, even if they're not Chinese.
Right. So because that Buddhist Council we talked about before for the kind of the hostility to the Asians and so it's those are always very very what do you call it I don't know. It's for me. It's very annoying. Well, actually, the even the description, the way they explain the certain things, create this simple discrimination instead of try to avoid it, but just creating the problem somebody else or this person, that person, and even a problem. I guess part of for me is also the problem could be me, but yet a lot of time the problem to find here, there, every other people. So that's why it seems like create the enemy is the way to solve the problem. I mean, that itself is a problem for me too. But anyway, because somehow, this is this problem comes from this guy, that guy, and we're just pointing out to the others. But
then coming back to this issue, like this is in the field of policy, economics and policy.
Yeah.
What's unfortunate is that there are these, very powerful, very wealthy weapons manufacturers
right.
thrive on international hostilities, even quite apart from the production of nuclear weapons, but even non-nuclear weapons and other instruments of war. So these corporations, in a way, they encourage hostility,
right?
In order that they can, because they see that their
benefits.
The purpose of the corporation is to make a profit. So their profits depend on at least hostile relations between the U.S. and other countries.
Right. Yeah.
Hostile relations and suspicion, so that the military will constantly need weapons and new weapon systems that they will manufacture and provide to the military, to the branches of the military. So in that way, our country, we squander probably every year about $1 trillion on military expenditures and weapon expenditures, while at the same time we have very poor quality. The quality of schools is deteriorated, quality of the infrastructure, bridges, roads deteriorating, healthcare.
Yeah, true.
Tens of millions of people, I think 40, 50 million people don't have access to healthcare. So all of the money that's being spent on weapons and other military instruments, and this is the United States is the country that really far surpasses all the other countries of the world in its military expenditures. I think the U.S. spends more on the military than the next 10 countries combined. So if we adopted a policy directed towards peace, even recognizing that we can't expect perfect peace, but we would have the ground for easily cutting military expenditures in half, and then we could use that additional
to help the people.
$500 billion to construct hospitals throughout the country, including in rural areas where there's lack of hospitals and doctors. We could greatly improve the educational system, improving schools, training for teachers, provide health care to everybody, free health care.
Yeah, true. Because even like after this coronavirus things, I mean, now they said that when they have unemployment rate, like when they start March is like only 3% or something. Now it's like a 20%, and then it will continue and so forth. So it will be a lot of anticipate difficult part of the things going to be happening. So I mean, those funding should be somehow support the people. That would be very nice. But so. But anyway, so I just wanted to thank you because I know this is a limited time only. But so I just wanted to ask, if anything else that you wanted to share at this point, I wanted to hear. And sometimes we forget this is very important parts to share with others.
Can I do a plug for Buddhist Global Relief?
Sure, of course. Okay. That's very important.
One of the big challenges I would say that faces that the international community faces, besides that of establishing what I would say is in fact an essential component of world peace, is to ensure that the entire world population, every human being on this planet has access to nutritious food in adequate quantities. And yet today Well, many of the nations are investing hundreds of billions of dollars in their military expenditures. We have something like 850 million people, close to a billion people, who are continuously plagued by food insecurity, and something like 250 million people who are living on the edge of starvation. And so I would say it's a responsibility of the global community to ensure that there are ways to divert funding from military purposes to providing food to everybody in the world. And as a Buddhist, I felt that as a pressure on my own sense of conscience. So years ago, together with some of my friends and students, we established an organization called Buddhist Global Relief, which is dedicated to helping communities around the world emerge from chronic hunger and malnutrition. And of course, we're a small organization, but each year we spend about $500,000 to $600,000 on projects in many different countries, about 40 countries, ranging from Cambodia, not only Buddhist countries, but countries ranging from Cambodia, Vietnam, India, Sri Lanka, several countries in Africa, Cameroon, Kenya, Malawi, Ethiopia, and Latin America, Haiti, Nicaragua, Peru, helping poor communities emerge from poverty and hunger and to become self-sufficient in providing for their food needs.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So that's I think the Buddhist Council, other group try to help your efforts, and then I think because tend to be like a monastic. Sometimes we stay at the temples, but maybe it's time to bring the more people to sometimes go out. I mean, of course, staying itself is important, but yet also we live in a community, so it might be nice to help the other community as well with boundless compassion idea of that as well. So I thank you so much for your hard work and your great work that you've been bringing to the Buddhist community, but not only Buddhist community, but also the other interfaith community and people in general, or the earth in general too. So I just wanted to thank you and for your time, and also hope we will bring the more peaceful world so that people don't need to have weapons, something like that.
Okay, so thank you. Thank you for your initiative.
So much. I appreciate it for your time.
Promoting world peace.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Have a great day. Thank you.
Okay, you too.
Thanks so much.